So for my initial PowerPoint presentation, these first couple slides are going to be pretty awful, and the second three are going to be my corrections to these slides. So to start with, you'll notice that my color scheme here is very bright, a lot of blue, orange. The title seems to match, but also doesn't because it's extraordinarily hard to read, and therefore very ineffective. The words are in boldface, large font, and they're all capitalized in the content section. This makes for it's extremely distracting. It'd be very hard for an audience to follow this line by line. And then you'll notice on the bottom line, I also used a number of, I think, 6 or 7 different exclamation points there. That really draws attention, but not quite the attention that I want. It's distracting. And then the third thing that you really find on this slide, or the fourth thing rather, is that I used far more than 6 words. I only used 4 lines, but I used 12 to 14 words in every single one of these sentences, which is unacceptable for a presentation. You want the speaker to do the talking, not the PowerPoint. So for my second one, we trimmed down the words, but still far more words than you need. The color scheme, again, is distracting. The formatting changed. You'll notice that the heading is now underlined. It's also in a boldface sans serif font, whereas the first one was in a serif font, but it was non-boldface and it was not underlined. So finally, the alternating colors would be extremely distracting to an audience. And for the third slide in the core section, the heading is actually quite good here. It would be an effective heading, and it wouldn't clash, but the content section uses very poor color choice. Yellow is extremely hard to read, and alternating colors like this, again, is extremely distracting. It would be very hard to actually focus on what the words say versus the color scheme per se. And so that is why this is an extremely ineffective group of slides. So for my next 3 slides, my initial correction involves simplifying the theme. So a basic theme, it's white, it's got a charcoal heading background, a white heading, and then it has black bullet points so that it's very easy to read, very easy to follow, and very simple. I also stuck to the 6x6 rule. The first sentence actually falls just outside of the 6x6 rule, and so does the second, but it's a very small difference, and it does not detract from the presentation overall. It still allows me to articulate what I'm trying to get across to the audience rather than the presentation tell me the story. This is very much an aid. So my second good slide, my second edit, again, consistent formatting throughout. Preventing a change in formatting really aids in keeping the audience focused on the content of the presentation rather than the formatting changes and distracting things that really have no bearing on what I'm trying to get across. I shortened and simplified the heading and 6x6 rule. All of these are very short. They're not even sentences, more like phrases. These allow me to really articulate what I'm trying to get across to the audience by speaking, and allow me to actually speak to fill the words rather than reading sentences off of a slide. So for my last slide, I simplified the heading even more to just 2 words. They're big. They're right there. You can see them very easily. Not distracting. Same theme throughout. And again, tried to stick with the 6x6 rule. You don't want too many words and too much text on the slide itself. So very short sentences that allow me to articulate what I want to get across to the audience. And again, I added a visual aid here because while I do mention it a number of times as to how we're talking about high-speed electric rails, showing the audience exactly what I'm talking about gives that visual reinforcement that allows them to really understand what I'm trying to sell them on, essentially. And so I think that's an extremely valuable tool. And so with that, these are my corrections.